All right, everybody. This is Alex San Vicente coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. Want to just go over some historic things that are going on right now. Donald Trump wins the presidency, but Hispanics fail to build into the narrative that conservatives in the Hispanic community would not vote for Donald Trump. We ended up coming out 2 points to 3, 4, and some polls 5 points higher than Mitt Romney. So does the Republican Party need to work on getting us out to vote for Republicans? Yes. But the narrative was not that. The narrative was that every single Hispanic in the entire community hated Donald Trump. And let's not forget, Hispanics actually delivered the presidency to Donald Trump. And here's why. Florida was a major, major win for Donald Trump. Cubans came out and voted for Donald Trump. Cubans are Hispanics. People fail to see that Hispanics, although we have lots of different opinions, our values are basically entrenched in conservativeness. A lot of us are Catholics. A lot of us believe deeply in our faith, and we believe in family, and we look past all of the rhetoric. But anyways, that's a little bit beside the point on what this broadcast is about. What we're talking about right now is how did the crooked media get this so wrong and miss the Hispanic angle? And now you're starting to hear the media blaming polls, blaming everyone except for themselves. I am hearing that they're taking responsibility for their mistakes, but then they turn around and blame it on the polls. They say, oh, we were wrong, but the polls were wrong. The data was wrong. How about being a fucking journalist? What happened to that? What happened to being a journalist and actually listening to your gut feeling? Something was fishy from the very beginning. Donald Trump was saying that things were crooked. Donald Trump was saying that the polls were rigged. Donald Trump was saying that the media was biased. But instead, you turn back into yourself and your little elitist schools and your little elitist cliques, because most of these news organizations are based out of elitist cities. And you just turn to yourself and your little $150,000 jobs and said, there is no way that this man will ever win the presidency. It's complete crap. You totally fucking missed this. Totally missed it. And it was because of your stupidity. Because you believed into all of it. You got onto your little planes with Donald Trump. You followed him around and you laughed at us. We went to the rallies, you said, and it was just a bunch of white rednecks. No, those weren't rednecks. That was Middle America. Middle America said to you, F you, we're not listening to you anymore. Stop trying to tell us what we want to hear and start telling us the truth. Politico.com used to be a really respected news journal. Started out as a blog, and I used to read it. Turned into the mouthpiece of the left. How is that possible? They used to do great reporting, but you know what happened? Real journalists left. Real journalists left the New York Times. Real journalists left the LA Times, Washington Post. All of these people sat around and said, I can't be a journalist at these publications anymore. I might as well go work in Russia and be a communist, because it has become like Russia. I can't say what I feel. I can't say what my gut tells me. And I definitely can't say what the facts are telling me. So I think that liberals need to go home and lick their wounds. And after their tears dry, they need to go back and think to themselves, what did we do wrong here? And why did we listen to the media? Donald Trump was right. The media was biased. Every single rally he went to, he always mentioned it. He pointed out to people in the audience that were reporters, respected journalists, and said to them, you are not reporting the news. You are reporting the narrative that you're given by your corporate bosses, and you need to just stand up for your dignity, because journalism has always been something that the American people have always cherished. Hard-hitting journalism is something that has always been something we could rely on. Now, opinion pundits are different. They can go on there and give their opinion all they want. And I guess I would be one of those opinionated people. But real journalists can't do that. People with press credentials can't do that. So now I'm hearing on places like Politico and Huffington Post that the polls were wrong. We were lied to. We're the victims here. We're the victims. And that's just not true, because the polls were there. The real polls, people in the alternative media and respected pollsters that were not willing to buy into the corporate narrative, they told these people, the journalists, the elite Republicans, you could take your Ivy League college degree and shove it up your ass, because we're not going to listen to you anymore. And that's the irony here, is that, people say that, we're a country divided. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that we're divided. You look at the popular vote and it's almost split evenly, but population centers in major cities historically vote Democrat. And there's a reason for that. It goes deep into our schools, into our colleges. If you look at the I can't pronounce that word, indoctrination that our colleges put our students through, they don't teach critical thinking anymore. They don't teach you to think on your own. They teach you to I walk around like a buffoon. Let's go protest. Let's go protest because we're mad. We're mad. We're gonna protest. What is that going to do? Nothing. But you see, your college has failed you, because what you should be doing, and I don't even know if I should be telling you this, is taking that anger and building a political movement, a MAGA movement, Make America Great Again movement. Build your own, just like we did, just how we took back this country, and we're going to be in control of this for a long time, at least the next 8 years. Donald Trump's going to win a second presidency because he's going to make America great again. I hate to sound like I'm on top of my soapbox now, like I'm just a brainwashed Republican. But you have to understand, this was not easy for a lot of us. A lot of us had to put our careers on the line, our friendships on the line. People were calling us racists. Even me, being a Hispanic, I was able to get away with a little bit more than your average white person because I was Hispanic. But what do you think people said to me? They said to me, you're a traitor. You're a traitor to your own people. How can you let this guy win? How can you be for this guy? And then I would tell them, what's wrong with enforcing legal immigration laws? What's wrong with that? I've been to other countries in Central America, and I'll tell you right now, they're great places to visit. And I've been back to my country a few times, but there are some serious cultural differences between Hispanic Americans and actual Central Americans. There's just a difference. That's why when you come here, you get your citizenship, you learn what it is to be an American citizen, and you basically throw yourself into the melting pot. They call it a melting pot because that's what it is. You come in here, you add your little spice of life, and you make it your own, but it's still an American life. It's still rooted in deep, deep American values. And I think that's what the pundits are forgetting here. People were tired of being told that being an American is a bad thing. People were tired of being told that being an American is an easy thing, that any Tom, Dick, or Harry can come in here from anywhere in the country and plant a flag and basically say, hey, I want this too. No, wait your turn in line like everyone else that had to come here and fight hard to get into this country. Now, some of us were lucky because we were born into this second generation, or we came here legally from parents that took advantage of amnesty programs or had to wait in line for a long time. There's nothing wrong with that. But the point is to come in legally, not to come in here illegally and start sucking on the teat of the government and expect that everything's handed to you. Now, I will say one thing. Traditionally, Hispanics that do come here illegally do work hard. But look you have to understand, this is by design. You come here illegally, and now a job that was paying $10 an hour, I can pay you $5 an hour. And I can make you work for weeks, and then I can tell you I don't want to pay you. What are you going to do about it? You can't do anything about it, because what can you do? I'll call immigration on you. So what will you do? Don't go back and work for that guy anymore. And you'll go on to your next job and you'll be like, shoot, I just got screwed. But it's better than being back home and being worried about getting murdered by a gang. And I know things are tough in your country, in our countries, in Central America, but that doesn't have to do with what's happening in America. That has to do with what's happening in Central America. That comes down to your government making changes. You need your version of 1776. And I'm speaking English here, and I know that there's not a lot of illegal immigrants who will probably even listen to this broadcast. But that's the truth of the matter. So how did the pundits get it so wrong? Well, they started believing their own bullshit. And they started believing it because so many good journalists have basically left the profession. And it's sad because there is a lot of people that have just been so fed up that they went, well, I'll say this, it's good and bad, because the really good journalists left and started getting into the alternative media space. And it was funny because in the beginning, alternative media was traditionally a liberal thing that only liberals did. And it was always the elitist Republicans that were the ones that were running CNN and Politico and Fox News. And a lot of these people that were actually pretty conservative, they went out and started their own thing. The Daily Caller is one great example. Tucker Carlson, he bet big on this and he won big. He's going to have his own primetime spot now on Fox News, and I guarantee you he's going to be the anchor. He's going to be the anchor of that station. And when I say anchor, I don't mean like Newsnight anchor. I mean like an actual star player at that organization. And I'm hoping places like CNN and MSNBC, ABC News, NBC News, they start to reflect on what the hell they did to get sucked into this. Because Donald Trump has been saying from the very beginning, it's your corporate handlers that are pushing this narrative to you. You need to look deeper into this. And you know, the funny thing about it is, if they would have done that, Hillary Clinton probably would have won this election. Because what they would have done is they would have been able to expose what the corporate handlers were trying to do. And once that blew over, people would say like, well, damn, I guess Donald Trump was right. I'm not going to vote for him, but I guess he was right, and everything's good now. So let's just elect Clinton into office and move on. Nothing to see here. It's kind of like, when you have a wound, you try to patch that wound up, and it starts to heal, and then you forget about it. So if the corporate media would have done that early on, they probably would have been able to avoid having to have Donald Trump be their president, because now they basically have to eat crow. And I, for one, am loving it. I'm loving every minute of it. Every minute of it. I love watching MSNBC now. I love watching CNN. I love watching the newscasts on the podcasts on Politico and listening to all of them just eat crow. I love even going back and listening to old radio programs of them just being so fucking arrogant. Arrogant, telling themselves he has no shot. He has no shot. He's down by 11 points. I don't know what he's doing in Pennsylvania. Why would he be in Pennsylvania? No Republican has won Pennsylvania in the last 50 years. He's not going to win Wisconsin. That's impossible. Florida, he'd be even lucky if he pulls that off. Ohio, that's impossible. Even when he was up in the polls in Ohio, they said he was down, when it was just completely obvious. And I think that Donald Trump and campaign were sitting back going like, you know what? Let them keep fucking talking like this. Let them keep continuing to say that we're down in the polls. Because you know what? It's going to make the Democrats way too confident. And they're all going to stay home. And you know what? A lot of them did. A lot of them did. And the funny thing about it is they were so arrogant about all of this. They figured that if they spend $500 million, and that doesn't even include lobbyists and PACs, super PACs, and side money that gets funneled into elections. If you count all that, Hillary probably spent close to $1 billion trying to get this presidency, about the same amount that Barack Obama and George W. Bush each spent in the last election cycle. Excuse me, Mitt Romney. And it was all for nothing. But you know what? They got so arrogant because it's always worked. It's always worked. But this time it didn't. Because the corporate media was so powerful. It was always so powerful. They dictated the narrative. They funneled that narrative down into their little minions who are paid $150,000, $200,000 a year to go off around the world writing their narrative. I mean, if you're working for Politico and your company gets bought out, and you're starting to get pushed into a narrative, the editors start pushing you into a narrative, they start pushing polls on you, you should all feel right now like you've just been totally duped. Take responsibility for it, because the American people will not forget. And now you made it even worse for yourself, because now you can't say anything to Donald Trump now, because he's calling you out the whole time as a freaking liar, as a complete liar. And guess what? He was right. He told you. He said the polls were rigged. He said it was all rigged. And you still don't want to admit it. Now, what are you saying now? You're blaming the polls. You're saying, oh, well, if he would have won, if he wouldn't have won, would he have still said that the polls are rigged? How come he's not saying now that the polls are rigged? He is saying that the polls are rigged. He never said the election was rigged. He said the system was rigged. So Hispanics were watching all of this. And just like middle America, they knew they were being lied to. As much as you try to continue to pound this narrative that Donald Trump was going to deport all of us, a lot of us have been working really hard trying to make a life for ourselves. And we really don't appreciate that people come here illegally and just put down a flagpole and say, I'm here and I want my peace. We don't agree with that. Well, anyways, I'm Alex San Vicente. Thanks for taking a listen to this first of many, many, many more commentaries on the new Donald Trump presidency. We're going to keep holding the media's feet to the fire, and definitely you're going to be hearing more from us. Let's make America great again. I'm Alex San Vicente, and I'll talk to you soon.